You are listening to the audio portion of the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
Welcome to another QB Power Hour. This is the last one of 2022. I can't believe it's already coming to an end. Here we are coming into the threshold of another new year, and this is a little unusual for us to actually have a Power Hour this close to the holidays. But Michelle and I thought it was a good idea to continue the cadence that we normally have. So today actually is kind of a hodgepodge, or if you're an Alex Trebek fan from Jeopardy, the potpourri of of topics from the QB Power Users Facebook group. So what I did is I went through some of the more recent posts that were in the Power Users Facebook group, and we'll just kind of talk and unpack some of those topics. So Michelle, you want to introduce yourself today?
Hello, everybody. I'm Michelle Long, CPA with an MBA in entrepreneurship and the owner of Long for Success, author of 5 different books. You can check those out on Amazon. And that's enough about me. Dan, go right ahead.
That's Dan DeLong, your co-host today, owner of Danwith. I worked at Intuit for about 18 years, also doing the co-hosting duties over at the School of Bookkeeping with the workshop Wednesdays that we are having one tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to be on the year-end checklist stuff. So if you're still itching for that year-end checklist type of thing, you can certainly head over at schoolofbookkeeping.com. So some details about the QB Power Hour webinars. It's every other Tuesday. Currently not eligible for CPE, but I am going to start a conversation with Blake Oliver and David Leary. They have a way to get some CPE credits just by listening. So we'll start working with them and see if we can't get some CPE credits just for attending the QB Power Hour. But check out the website for upcoming webinars. We've got some pretty good ones coming up, lined up in the new year. And if you have the PDF, or if you need the PDFs or want to review the recordings or podcasts or other resources, you can always go to qbpowerhour.com/resources. Some housekeeping. If you have specific questions about what we're talking about today, please put them in the Q&A, because if we do have to follow up, the Q&A makes it a lot easier for us to reach back out. If you throw things in the comments, just in the chat, like Landon's doing there, it could be pretty challenging to find out who you are and reach back out to through your email. So the Q&A helps us do that. And then, of course, we have the links to the handouts. So I was looking at some of the follow-up survey emails or surveys that we have after the webinar. And there's some questions about, hey, could you send out the slides ahead of time, right? So we are using Zoom as our method of doing the webinar here, and in the alert emails that come out, they come out 1 day and 1 hour prior. There is a link there in the Power Hour, or I'm sorry, in the alerting email. Excuse me, I can't speak today. in the email that comes out, we do put in the link there to the resources page. So you would be able to click on the link and get to the handouts, prior to the webinar. And typically, about every week, I get at least 3 or 4 emails asking me to update their email address. Right, so Zoom doesn't allow you to change the contact information. On those alert emails that come out, you can cancel the registration and then re-register on the new email. So if you do have a need to update your email address, because Lord knows I have about 14 different email addresses, and sometimes you have ones that prefer over others, just cancel your registration and re-register under the new email address. So enough about that. So today is going to be just all about hot topics, not the hot pockets, but hot topics. So we're just going to be talking about the QB Connect recap. Michelle and I attended the QB Connect in Las Vegas. So we'll just have a little debrief on our experiences there. And we'll talk about, there was a PCI compliance email that went out at the end of November, and caused a little bit of confusion, as a lot of emails that come from Intuit or come from an Intuit email address tend to do. And we'll talk about issuing refunds in QBO, some default deposit to on customer payments, report dates, defaults in QBOA, the profit and loss detail and simple start. How do you get that? And then something that has nothing to do with QuickBooks, but we've all seen those fake reviews on your Facebook profile or Facebook business page. How do you block those? So we'll talk a little bit about that. So hopefully that'll fill up the hour here. But if you have any specific questions, this is going to be also a stump the chump. If you have a burning question, go ahead and ask that in the Q&A, so that we can maybe address that if we run out of time. So we'll start off first with a poll. What version of QuickBooks are you using to support your clients? Okay, that was a lot for me, Michelle.
Lot to go through there, huh?
Yeah. Anything that you saw in the chat that went scrolled by while I was rambling on there?
Not in the chat, but I would like to just mention something that I saw in the QB Power Users Facebook group. The discussion about the payroll certification, and people didn't know that in the Craig's Design and Landscaping sample company, you can turn on payroll. So, we have the certifications. There is a payroll certification now for ProAdvisors, which it is free to join the ProAdvisor program. When you're taking the payroll certification, turn on payroll in the sample company. All you got to do is click, turn on payroll. I can't remember exactly what it says, get payroll, turn on payroll, whatever. It will turn on payroll in the sample company. And then you need to do what we advise people do. This is what I did to pass the payroll certification. Open an incognito window, log into QBOA, and go into the sample company and turn on payroll, and you have the exam in the incognito window, and then you go over into your regular Chrome browser into the sample company, so you can look at the payroll settings, you can look at the payroll reports, you can double check your answers. So you can toggle between the exam and the sample company and payroll, and you can Google the questions, and you can do all those things. You can double check your answers. So you can turn on payroll, and you can also, if you're working on something else, you can turn on the sales taxes, the automated sales taxes in the sample company. You can turn on multi-currency in the sample company. So use that sample company when you're working on the exam or working on client problems or whatever. Utilize it.
Yeah. When you turned it on, Michelle, did you notice what flavor of QBO payroll that was? Because I remember turning it on, it was always the enhanced payroll service, which is the do-it-yourself. Now that they have, core, premium, elite, you know what flavor that is?
I didn't notice that. I was able to go in and pretend that I was going to file the payroll taxes, because it doesn't actually file them. It links you to the state's website to do the filing and everything. So I was able to go in and view and file as if I were going to pay a payroll tax return, and do all of that stuff. So I didn't pay attention to which subscription level it was, because now really the difference between them is how quickly or how late, you can submit your payroll and things like that. Because Intuit now is doing, most of that for you. So anyway, it allowed me to pass the payroll test. I got payroll certified. And I don't even do payroll. I haven't done payroll for years.
You're famous for not liking payroll.
That's right. And I was able to go through and pass the payroll certification test using the sample company. And I Googled, which took me to a lot of the payroll resources at IRS, because a lot of them are, what is a, looking up some of the rules and requirements for de minimis fringe benefits and some of those things. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because that was a discussion in the group as well.
Yeah. So, that's always a good call out. Maybe we, if time permits, we can show how to turn that on. But let's start with QuickBooks Connect. So, finally, after 2 years, 2-year hiatus or a virtual conferences, QuickBooks Connect came back in live and in person, and it was in Las Vegas of all places. Usually it's at San Jose, which is closer to their headquarters. But this year they decided to do it in Las Vegas. And one of the things that was really kind of neat, I think, about the QuickBooks Connect, and Michelle, you can see your name is emboldened in here, but they they had a little acknowledgement of the ProAdvisor program, which was celebrating its 25th year of existence. And they showed the listing, or the list of names here is the original 20. There were 401. Yeah,
the OG.
401 ProAdvisors that were that have been active since its inception in 25 years ago. And of those 401, there were 43 that were in attendance for QuickBooks Connect. So they made a little acknowledgement. What did you feel about that? You got sit front and center, and everybody, they made you stand up, and we all applauded you. What was your feelings about that?
Oh, it was fine. It was kind of cool that they acknowledged us, but it was also kind of embarrassing because we're the old folks. Hey, here's all the old people that have been around for 25 years.
Yeah. There's Mark Curry is watching us here, and his name is on there as well.
Yeah. Susan said she agrees. It was cool. It was kind of nice to be acknowledged, but then again, for 25 years, I would have expected to see confetti coming down or balloons. I mean, not necessarily for us, but for the ProAdvisor program. The fact that it's been around for 25 years, because the way technology changes and the way companies and apps and just the way things come and go, the fact that the ProAdvisor program, not necessarily us that have been in it for 25 years, but the fact that it's been around 25 years, I would have expected a bigger deal that it's still around 25 years later. You know what I mean? I mean, the fact that they're celebrating 25 years in existence, I kind of thought they would have had some confetti or balloons or, we've been here 25 years. We have, how many ProAdvisors are there now? 600,000 or however many, and we have this many that are certified. We have this many that are advanced certified. I kind of thought they would have made a bigger deal out of the fact that the ProAdvisor program's been around 25 years. Not necessarily that we've been in it that long, but that the program itself has been around that long. So I was a little underwhelmed at the acknowledgement that the program has been here that long. And yes, we got to, now they said they're sending us something, but we got a keychain. So
it's like getting the watch. Getting the watch after 40 years of work, right?
They have assured us that something else is coming and all that. But I mean, the whole thing is, though, that the program itself and Intuit QuickBooks, the fact that QuickBooks is still here after that many years, it's more than 25 years. I mean, that's pretty cool in technology to be here that long.
I mean, since they were in Vegas, they should have had like a ProAdvisor Cirque du Soleil, right? I mean, that would have been...
There you go. Yeah.
That would have been right up there with the theme.
Rich Kane get up there and spin around, or Susan Humphreys or somebody. Let's see him, spinning around on something from the ceiling.
All right. Yeah, I was trying to get you to spit. I was trying to get you to spit out your water there, but didn't quite get the joke in time. But
Anyway.
yeah, speaking of underwhelmed, so they did have some technology announcements, which when they were talking about these things, the silence was deafening.
Yeah, it was.
And I think it was very telling about the audience. I mean, I don't know if maybe they spent too much time drinking the night before or something, but the when they came out and talked about some of the technology enhancements that are coming in to be looking for, some of them are already live, right? So it was like, well,
Right,
what are you
yes.
telling us? What are you telling
Right,
us
yeah.
about? But then some of the other ones were, well, what took you so long, right? So it was a kind of a mixed review for sure when they were announcing some of these enhancements. What was your take on that, Michelle?
Well, like you said, it was awkward because sometimes people get excited. I mean, we get excited and we're clapping, like when they told us that they were going to fetch the bank statements for us and that would be there when we're reconciling. People were clapping. We were excited when they said it was going to fetch those canceled checks for us. We were excited and clapping. And I think that's part of the reason why this year we're like not excited, because we're still waiting for some of that they told us how many years ago.
Yeah.
We're just now starting to see it on some bank accounts, but not all bank accounts. Like some clients have some of this, but not all of them. So you're right. As they were announcing some of this, you could even hear it in their presentation where they would pause and they were waiting for applause that wasn't coming. And it was awkward because the enthusiasm, the excitement wasn't there. And I don't know. It was awkward. It really was. It was, I don't know how to describe it, because like you said, it was just kind of, I don't know. Most of it was not something to really get excited about, like you mentioned QuickBooks Commerce, a lot of that's already there for eBay and Shopify and Amazon. At least part of it's there. The inventory piece isn't there, which is a big piece of it. The inventory and cost of goods sold is not there yet. So it was some stuff, but nothing too excitable.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't necessarily go into great detail, right? When they do those kinds of presentations. And we had a power hour where we kind of talked about the QuickBooks Commerce accounting, right? And so when they talked about it, I was very okay. Well, yeah, I hate it. Like, this is nothing to get excited about because I've seen what it is. So when we had that event where they where it was a smaller, intimate event one evening, I was standing by the heater, and because it was cold at night, and there was somebody there that was struck up a conversation, and it turns out it was her name is, I think it's Kat. She was a part of the acquisition of Trade Gecko, right? Which is the commerce accounting. And, I was expressing to her my, underwhelmment of the, of the announcement. And she's like, give me 20 minutes, come down to the booth, give me 20 minutes and we'll talk about what's currently there and what's coming. Right. And I have to say that after that 20 minutes, I gave her the benefit of the doubt and I went down and then watched the little demo that of what's coming in the spring. Sales orders is coming to QBO. Variants, inventory variants are going to be supported in QBO. So some of these things that are part of the Trade Gecko acquisition, when it comes to QuickBooks Commerce and the commerce section, some of these things are exciting about, but they couldn't talk about those things on stage, right? So they couldn't fill those in. So, I said, hey, you got to come on the Power Hour when this is, ready for
Right.
release to talk about some of these things. And she was like, yes, absolutely. So,
Well,
look
good.
forward
That'd
to
be good.
that, because
That's
just
good.
like you said, the inventory is severely lacking in QuickBooks
Yes.
Online. So because, TradeGecko does have a lot of these inventory management pieces, they're taking some of that technology and bringing it into QuickBooks Online. Whether or
Right.
not you're using online sales channels to bring that information in. So there are some things that I think to get excited about, but they couldn't talk about
Yeah.
them, in there. Like this thing of the fixed asset module, right? Like this is what took you so long, right? The
Right.
revenue
Yeah.
recognition, like these are like
Right.
fundamental things that are not innovative in and of themselves. And one of the speakers that was at QB Connect kind of resonated. Now I can't even remember his name. The last one, I can't remember his
Oh,
name now.
Martin Gladwell. Gladwell.
Martin, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
he taught. What resonated with me is there's all this
Not
buzz and
Gladwell.
talk about Malcolm Gladwell. That's
Malcolm
what it.
Gladwell. That, yeah, I was getting ready to Google it because I knew Martin wasn't right. Gladwell though.
Uh,
Yeah.
he talk. There's all this talk about no, you even go to the vendor, the exhibition hall and everything. Is everybody says they're so innovative. There's plenty of dumb innovation that's out there, and right, and the true test of innovation is you know is the time. What does it stand the test of time? Does it alter the way things used to be? You look at Quicken, that was innovative, right? Like that changed. And when was the last time you balanced a checkbook in the register, that the old way, where you had the paper the paper register? I mean, that's definitely an innovation, right? Not adding fixed asset module to QBO, right? So some of these things are going to be game changers, but not all of them, right?
Right.
So there's a link here to the summary of the announcements in the handouts. You can go check those out a little bit deeper. A lot of the stuff we can't necessarily demonstrate or really unpack until it's actually live or coming. One of the neater ones was the QBO payroll onboarding. I did get a nice demonstration from Blaze, who's in our Facebook group, to talk about if you're coming from an outside payroll service and coming into QBO payroll. They give you the reports to run and how to get those, that summary or that history, and then you just upload it inside of QBO payroll, and then voila,
Yeah.
right? It makes that onboarding that much smoother. So that was pretty slick.
I will say over the last year or so, they have really improved payroll a lot, making it easier to edit the checks and everything. They really put a lot of focus into payroll, and they've really done a lot of improvements in the payroll area. They've really been working on
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Facebook Power Users group. If you can go, since we're talking about the 25-year going back in history, Michelle, can you talk a little bit about how this all started and give a little history lesson for for those that
Well, gosh,
maybe joining.
Hector and I first started the QB Power Hour. Was it 2017 or 18? I can't remember when we first started, the Power Hour, and we decided we needed a Facebook group where people could continue the conversation, where we could continue chatting with people and interacting with people and everything. And we did have the discussion, do we open it up to anybody or do we keep it a closed group? And that was a really big discussion. And we opened the discussion up to the group, to the members of the group. If you open it up, you can have the group be bigger. Obviously, the more people you let join, the bigger the group. It's open membership. But we decided we wanted to try to restrict it to accounting professionals where we could kind of try to keep out end users. So if we were talking about our clients or dealing with clients or client problems and issues, we wanted to feel like we could talk freely to our accounting professional, so that our clients wouldn't possibly see what we were saying. And so that's where we decided it would be better to have a smaller group of accounting professionals than a large group with any, person joining. And so that's where we made the decision, let's have it a closed group and try to control who's joining the group. And so that's where we made that decision. And so the idea was peers helping peers because we can't answer everybody. And I love the fact of how willing people are to share their knowledge and information. And, that's where I will always tell people, you got a question, post it in the group. Somebody has worked with that app, or has feedback on that app or that problem or whatever. And people have, a wealth of information and experience on different industries and different ways of doing things and different ideas and suggestions. You don't have to do what they say or recommend, but it gives you lots of ideas that you can then say, okay, which one's going to work best for my client and my situation. And so I think it is just a fabulous group. And it's because of the people that are in that group. So
yeah,
I love it.
It's very self-managed, right? I mean,
yes.
If somebody sneaks in there and posts a TikTok video of that's maybe not appropriate or not even on topic, it immediately gets reported, and we can kind of manage that. Because that's one thing that we didn't want to necessarily do with the Facebook group is turn on post approval. I hate Facebook groups where you join and then you can't post something right away, like because you joined a group
Right.
or to ask a question, right?
Yeah.
and then you're at this bottleneck of oh gosh, I got to prove my worth before I even
Right.
see if it's worth it.
And we didn't want to be support for end user questions either. Where you have end users, how do I post an invoice? How do I do that? So we didn't want those types of questions either. We wanted it professionals helping professionals. And I think that's what we've got. And so I think it's a fabulous group because of the people that are in it. So
absolutely.
Anyway.
And we got, honorable mention of the 4 Facebook groups to help grow your practice. You actually click on it. There's 5. And that's why Intuit is not accountants, right? They have an article that's called four Facebook groups, and then there's actually 5 in there. But
that's funny.
Little sense of irony. All right. So we just wanted to kind of highlight and talk about some of these recent posts that were in the Facebook group, and every article or every topic that we're going to be talking about here today, I did create a link to the post, so you can go back and check it out in the Facebook group itself and see those comments. But first one we want to talk about is PCI compliance email. So somebody wrote, has anybody gotten this email? I don't use QuickBooks Desktop Payroll. I use QBO Payroll. Email looks legit, but I saw someone posted this somewhere the other day, and it seemed odd to me. But it's talking about being PCI compliant with my payments, yet it's from Desktop Payroll. I would think this would have been from QuickBooks Payments, right? So a lot of confusion about this email. And going back to the fact that there's an article about 4 Facebook groups and there's 5 in there, you can see that there's not necessarily some quality control when it comes to some of these emails that actually do come from Intuit. But I did write a blog about 4 ways to sniff out if it's a phishing scam. The first thing is to kind of hover over the from address and look and see if it's got an at intuit.com domain, because it's very difficult, especially for fraudsters to mask an email address. They can mask the from, right? Like, say Intuit Desktop Payroll as the as the display name, but when you hover over the email address, the truth comes to the surface. You often see like so and so at gmail.com or Yahoo or Ymail or something like that in the actual from address, and that's usually a dead giveaway when it's especially a web-based email. That's a good way to spot these things. But there's other things in that article there about look for misspellings and those types of things. But one thing I did want to point out is that there used to be an email address that you would just forward these to called spoof@intuit.com. It's now security@intuit.com. So, don't send it to spoof anymore. But there is a website to go to look at, if these prior phishing emails or malicious type emails have been reported. So you can always go into there and take a look and see, put it through your litmus test of whether or not this is a legitimate email or not. But the reality is this was a legitimate email, but it still caused a lot of confusion. And I even got it. So let me see here if I get, yes. So I got this email, and it came to my QB Power Hour email address, which is not tied to my ProAdvisor or desktop payroll at all. Right.
Oh,
so I don't even have.
Yeah.
I don't even have. So that's part of the confusion. It's like, especially with this post, is that the from address is Intuit QuickBooks desktop payroll. So why would I need to be concerned about PCI compliance when it's dealing with payroll, right? So let's first talk about what PCI compliance is. PCI stands for Payment Card Industry, and then being compliant, right? So it's basically talking about making sure that you are doing your due diligence when you're accepting credit cards. So therein lies the confusion, right? Like, why is payroll sending me an email about something about credit cards? Who knows, right? Who knows why there's four Facebook groups when actually 5 are listed. So that could be chalked off to, okay, somebody didn't cross their T's or dot their I's. But it talks about becoming PCI compliant today, right? So when you actually dig into the programs that you're using to charge credit cards are different than your business practices when it comes to being PCI compliant, and that's really at the bottom of why this email came out at all. All of Intuit's products are PCI compliant when it comes to charging credit cards, right? So, QuickBooks Point of Sale, QuickBooks Online, and QuickBooks Desktop are all PCI compliant softwares when it comes to charging credit cards. So if you ever charge a credit card inside of any of those softwares, as soon as you step off the field where you've actually typed in or swiped the credit card, you can't see that number anymore. Banking information is I think the technical term is obfuscated, which it means it's X'd out except for the last 4 digits. So it's a PCI compliant software, but that doesn't mean that you have PCI compliant business practices when it comes to taking credit cards. If somebody calls you and you write down their credit card number on a Post-it, that's not a PCI compliant.
You mean I can't do that?
Not a good idea, right? Because if there is a breach of your company and it's found out that you were doing, non-PCI compliant activities, you could have a fine, right? So that's what this email is all about: is making sure that you safeguard your business practices when it comes to being PCI compliant. Now, Intuit is not actually doing this service. They've partnered with the security metrics to be able to offer that service for business practices. And to add confusion to their, to this whole thing. Oops, let me go back here. when you clicked on that link, it was super confusing. On top of that, it was this huge, huge thing about basically, you're going to get fined all this money if you're not PCI compliant, right? So to their credit, since this email came out, it's been a lot more simpler to digest, right? So, am I required to become PCI compliant? And this here states, while Intuit products are PCI compliant, you also need to validate your business handles how I can't even say it. It's only one sentence. You also need to validate that your business handles payment card data safely through your PCI compliant certification. So basically, your business becomes certified as PCI compliant, not just the software that you're using. And of course, there's a fee, right, to do that. But they also stand by and give you some guarantees that if you are certified and there is a data breach or something along those lines, they'll stand up and pay for some of the fines. It's basically an insurance policy for PCI compliance business activities, right? So that is hopefully that kind of clears up the issue about PCI compliance.
I just want to point out a great question, because Landon has a great question. I have the same question, and I'm sure a lot of us do. Why do we have to be PCI compliant, or what practices would make me not PCI compliant if I am only sending a link to my customers to pay? That's Landon's question. And I agree with him. If I'm emailing an invoice to my customers that says click to pay here, why do I have to be PCI compliant? Or if I'm creating that link to send to my customers to pay, why do we have to be PCI compliant? And I understand Landon's question. And Landon says he's determined to find out the answer. So, I hope you are, Landon, because you're speaking for a lot of us, and I agree with you. And so I was saying, I hope that he could figure it out and post that answer for us in the group there. And he said, is it because he can access the Merchant Center? But accessing the Merchant Center doesn't give you access to their credit card information. They enter their credit card information themselves when they pay the invoice. We don't have access to their credit card information, so we should not have to be PCI compliant. We don't have access to that information. So it's a great question. Hopefully you can figure that out, and we get somebody from Intuit on, or we contact somebody and have them provide answers. Yeah. I agree, Landon. I want answers too.
yeah, and I think in the grand scheme of things, this could be something that's kind of like outside of their scope, which is why they're partnering with another company to do that, right? Like it's it's not a Norton thing, right? Like Norton Internet Security doesn't necessarily having Norton over your standard Windows Defender or something like that. It's just an extra layer of security with regards to viruses. So this would be just another layer of security for and compliance with regards to being PCI compliant. But to answer your question, I can't see the reason that you would need this service if all you're doing is sending it through QuickBooks, right? If you're just sending a link, you're using a PCI compliant software, that would basically be enough, right? And maybe you don't need this extra layer of protection. But if your business practices are such that you find yourself using Word document or an Excel spreadsheet to put down credit card information from your clients, that might be something that you might want to kind of audit yourself on that. Somebody asked the name of the Facebook group, and I was trying to find it here.
I just posted it in there.
Okay,
I just
great.
posted
Fantastic.
the link.
All right. So moving on. Hodgepodge topic number 2. Issuing a refund in QBO. Back in June, a refund check was written to a customer. For some reason, it was never connected to the customer sales account in QBO, so it does not show a credit or refund there. It still appears like my client owes the customer money back, even though the customer has long since cashed a check. This was done before I took over the books. How do I get the check to show up in the customer's account? So there's a lot of sub questions in this one post, but it all boils down to how do you handle credit memos and refunds in QuickBooks? And this is when I was there fielding these questions, it was a very common question. Like, okay, do I use a credit memo? Do I use a refund check? Do I use a credit memo and a refund check? How do I do refunds? And unfortunately, Michelle, there's not a straight answer when it comes to that. I mean, it's like adult diapers. It depends. There's no straight answer when it comes to that. But understanding the transaction types and their use. Oh, there's Casey. Understanding their transaction types and what their designed use is helps you understand, what will be the best thing to use, right? So the way I always thought about it is that a credit memo is the opposite transaction of an invoice. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, yes. A credit memo is the opposite of an invoice. You're just adjusting the customer's account with a credit memo. But in QBO, there is a place to do a refund. And on that refund, then you indicate how are you going to do the refund? Like, how are you going to actually pay them the money, whether it's a check or a credit card or something. But there is a refund transaction. Right. So a credit is simply a credit on their account. It's not actually paying them money.
Yeah. So just like an invoice is a promise to pay later, but I have the items that are actually being sold. I would put that on invoice. You would do the same thing for a credit memo. What's coming back? Do I need to receive in merchandise, or are they giving something back, or are they canceling their service? I will put the same products and services that I sold on the invoice, also on the credit memo, but that's going to just adjust their balance and not necessarily issue them a refund, right? So the opposite of the combination of an invoice and a payment transaction is a sales receipt in QuickBooks. So the opposite of a sales receipt is a refund receipt, right? You're receiving you do exactly the same thing. There's no passage of time to account for between the credit memo and the refund. The refund receipt itself is actually receiving the merchandise back, or whatever the items are, and giving the money back at the same time. So it sounds like in this particular scenario, this refund check was written outside of that process, right? So what a lot of people will do is they'll see the check, they'll put it to accounts payable or accounts receivable, excuse me. They'll put it to accounts receivable, and then that check doesn't then show up on the customer's record, right? So using those designed transactions, those are going to show much better on the customer's reporting if you're using credit memos or refund receipts. So it's a good idea to just at least understand what those receipts or those transactions are designed for, and then how do I get it to show on the customer's account? Make sure you're not using a journal entry or a negative deposit to accounts receivable or something like that, because those reports don't necessarily show those things, right? This is another topic here. The default deposit to on customer payments. Is it possible to set this deposit to drop down in the receive payments window to default to undeposited funds? So in QBO, this deposit to is down here in the lower right, and in the screenshot there's a Huntington operating account. This is the concept here is sticky preference. The terminology is it just remembers the last recorded transaction, and then it uses that deposit to for the next one, right? So if you change it to undeposited funds, the next one will say, change to undeposited funds. Desktop is a little bit different in that you actually can be more specific or just have the preference to only use undeposited funds in preferences. So there is no drop down when you're using that preference in desktop. But if you uncheck undeposited funds as your default account, then it becomes like QuickBooks Online, where it has the drop down, and then you can select which one, and then it becomes sticky again. This one here is merging accounts in the accountant view. So the accountant view when you're managing chart of accounts, I think, has become a sore subject, to put it politely. Because who loves change more than accountants? And then this is the framework of an accountant's work, is the chart of accounts. So when you make this radical change to the way that you manage create and edit chart of accounts, it was just it was not a great great thing. But this one was pointed out that they're trying to merge, right? Which originally you couldn't merge at all in the accountant view. But they're just kind of pointing out that it's case sensitive. So I just kind of blew it up here that when you're trying to merge, it has to be case sensitive. Now, I don't know if since then, there's been an update to allow that, but it's just we just wanted to kind of point that out, that the important safety tip. Make sure that if you're merging, not only does the characters have to be the same, but they also have to be the same case.
And that's why it's a best practice to copy and paste the name.
Yeah, good idea.
That way, yeah, because it's even like if you have, like, let's say you're doing a customer or vendor name and it's street ST period, and you retype it ST without the period, it's not the same. So best practice, copy and paste the name. That'll alleviate.
And don't grab any extra spaces.
Right. So copy and paste the name is the best practice.
All right. This one here is profit and loss detail in Simple Start. So you have a client on Simple Start subscription, which apparently does not allow you to pull a profit and loss detail report. Any advice or workaround? Also, when you do an annual cleanup for your bookkeeping after the fact, what do you provide for reporting for them to review, and how do you format that? So this is definitely a more of a conversation on the second part of the question. But what I loved about this particular post is that someone immediately came to the rescue and said, "Hey, just run a summary and drill in on the bottom line, and there you get your profit and loss detail report," which is not a default report, but by working around and drilling in on that, you do get your profit and loss detail. I did want to point out here, Hector has actually gone through every version of QuickBooks and created a report comparison by version, and I just linked to it here in the slides. So this is a great resource for you. It just lists every canned report and what version it's in, whether it's in Plus or Essentials or Simple Start, so that you can see at a glance, right? Whether that report would even be there if you're using that particular version. And by me clicking on that, I've got out a full screen. So how do I let's see. How do I get back here? There we go. Okay. All right, and then the last one here. Whoa, I'm going all over the place here. Okay, so we've all had this situation, or at least I have, that there are you get a review on your Facebook business page, and you go into it, and it's somebody, recommending your business, but it's actually for somebody else's. So it's typically I've seen it's like Bitcoin and investor trading and those types of things, about this review or recommendation on your Facebook page. So let's see if I can find it here. There we go. So there's a way to go in and block certain words on your business page. And we linked that in the post there. So if you go back into the post, you can see the instructions there. But basically, you go into your business page, into the settings, and it's all right here because nothing's more maddening than when something moves and you can't find it anymore. So you have to find where they hide these little nuggets of options inside of Facebook. But you go into your page, into the settings, and under moderation, there's hide comments creating certain words from your page, and then you can add. That's what I discovered is that all of these reviews have something in common, like trading. They usually ask for a WhatsApp. There's a WhatsApp link or a phone number to reach out on WhatsApp. So typically, nobody's going to be doing that as part of a legitimate review. You can put in those as blocked words. So that since I've done that, I haven't seen any of these. So I'm crossing my fingers that that this actually works, because it is annoying. I mean, it's nice that they give you a 5-star review, but it's not a review for you.
Okay, so Dan, you said stump the chump, so I have one for you. So there seems to be a lot of people creating Facebook profiles that are fake. Mm-hmm. And I had this years ago on LinkedIn where somebody took my profile on LinkedIn with their picture and a fake name, but they stole like my whole resume, basically my whole like history of, they had authored a book and they were a QuickBooks expert and they had done this and they had done that, but under somebody else's name and profile. Well, now you're seeing a lot of that on Facebook, where they'll take somebody else's picture and name and they're creating a fake Facebook profile and all of a sudden inviting everybody to like them. Do you have an answer for how to stop that?
Yeah. So, that's all in the privacy, right? So you want to go into your profile and make sure that your friends list is not public, right? So and then any posting that you make is not public, because that is that's the challenge, right? Is that anything that's available that you put out there is public, right? So if it's like trying to stop someone dressed up as a police officer from coming up to your door, right? I mean, you can't stop someone from doing that unless you hide some of the information that allows them to get to your door. Right. So if you don't publish your address, they won't find you. They'll just go to somebody else who is giving that information public. So, I don't think you can not make your profile picture public, but you can hide you can hide your posts, right? You can take your audience off of public for everything that you post. Especially when you tag people in Facebook posts, if they're public, then that kind of opens the window for people to see, your friends, right? And that's typically what they do is they find what's public and then use that kind of against you. Now, what bothers me about this is that people think they're hacked, right? They're not hacked; they're just cloned, right? So and it's based off of information that they've given away freely by making things public. So it's kind of it's not like they've compromised your password, and changing your password doesn't change anything about if everything is public. So go through your settings and make sure that you're what you kind of audit yourself, right? This is kind of like a PCI compliance for Facebook, right? I don't know that there's a service for that. Maybe there is a business out there for auditing what you put out there freely. But go through the privacy settings, because that's another thing that Facebook changes pretty regularly is its privacy settings. And then you don't even realize that something may have defaulted back to public. So, set yourself a reminder monthly to just kind of audit your your privacy settings inside of Facebook, so that you can make sure that what's public is, what you want to be public is public, and what you want to be private is private. People love to hate Facebook, but they use it all the time. And if you ever watched The Social Dilemma, it's on Netflix. It's a documentary. I would highly recommend. If you want to get a better understanding of who you are to Facebook and other social media, because you're not paying for it, so you must be the product.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. Unfortunately. Okay. Any other questions for us that you all have, or anything that we can answer in our final few minutes? A few reminders as we approach the end of the year. Raise your rates if you haven't done that recently. Oh, one thing too, also on the the QB Connect recap, I wanted to point out, I went to a great session on Ron Baker, and he was discussing subscription pricing. We went through the whole discussion on value pricing and everything, and now the big talk is subscription pricing. And I can see it, and I absolutely think it makes a lot more sense, and I think it's going to be a lot easier to implement and adopt versus value pricing. And I do think it is going to be more widely implemented and adopted by people versus value pricing. And I am very happy to say I got my book autographed by Ron Baker, and we are going on our ski trip and driving for 9-10 hours out to Colorado again this year for our annual ski trip. Guess what I'm taking and reading on the ski trip? So if you have not got it yet, Time's Up is Ron Baker's new book. I highly encourage you to check it out on Amazon. Time's Up. If you still have people buying for you for Christmas this year, or Hanukkah, or whatever holiday you celebrate, Time's Up is his latest book on subscription pricing. It's worth checking out. So
awesome. Yeah, one of the things that I really liked about QB Connect was connections, right? So, I mean, yeah. I have an affinity for QB Connect, because the first QB Connect that I went to, that's where everything kind of fell together for me. I came up with the name of my business. I bumped into you. You asked me to co-host the QB Power Hour. It was just an amazing experience the first time that I went, and being able to reconnect with a lot of familiar faces and bump into and talk with people that I didn't know. I walked down the hall one day and it's like, "Hey, Dan," it's like it was people I didn't even know. Just people who, who come, like, we do this because we like to, and everything. And we don't even realize, kind of the impact that we're having on other people, and really having those face-to-face connections.
So I have something to share. I am. Because that's what it's all about. And Connect the name is so applicable. And that's what, Time's Up and subscription pricing is all about relationships. And Connect is all about relationships. It's all about relationships. And Dan, the only reason that happened at Connect was because of the relationship that we had. It wasn't meeting in the hall that day. It was the relationship that we had developed over the years. But anyway, it's all about relationships. And at Connect, I taught a session on speaking. And at the end of my session, I had a lady who came up to me. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to share this. She came up to me and she wanted to talk to me after my session. And she told me that the first book that I wrote 15 years ago, I just realized it was 15 years ago after she had told me this, she had lost her husband. He got cancer. And she told me that she had been a stay-at-home mom. She was an accountant and everything. And she'd been a stay-at-home mom. But she had my book, and that she said it helped her to start her own practice. And she had a 9-year-old and 12-year-old at the time, and it allowed her to keep her house and provide for her children. And then it changed her life. And now she helps other women start their own business. And I never knew what an impact that had on somebody else. And so we don't realize the impact that we're having on other people in their lives. And it is all about relationships and helping one another. And we're helping people with their businesses and our clients. And we are making a difference. Sometimes we joke about, oh, it's just accounting, it's just bookkeeping. We're not saving people's lives. It's no big deal. But we are helping people because it's their business and they're providing for their employees and for their families and things. And it is all about relationships with our clients, with our peers, with our partners and stuff. And so, sometimes we get busy and we don't really realize the impact that we're having on each other. And so it really touched me. So anyway, Dan, you're a great partner. So thank you. And all of you that come and listen to us on these sessions and say hi to us in the hallways when we meet you at Connect and all this. It really does touch our lives. And it does mean something when you all tell us thank you. So thank you to everybody. And whatever holiday you celebrate, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you to everybody. And Dan, thank you for the wonderful gift that you sent me too. But thank you all.
Well, yeah, I got something in my eye too.
I know. Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this. I apologize, everybody.
No, I mean that I appreciate you for for being vulnerable and sharing that story, and it just speaks to the person that you are as an individual. And your presence is the best gift, right? I mean, that's I appreciate everything about you, Michelle, and what you give back to this community. And before it's a tear fest, everybody have a great holiday. And we'll see you in the coming year, and we hope to you have your joint. We're a part of your journey as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the QB Power Hour podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our Facebook group. You can find those resources and much more at qbpowerhour.com.